to go straight into the business of tonight, the repatriation of South Africans from all over the world. How is that going, and how many South Africans so far as of today have been repatriated, and how many more have made requests to be brought back home?
Oh, good evening again, JJ, and good evening to the viewers of Newsroom Africa. In terms of repatriation, it's not an easy walk in the park to execute this important task of getting South Africans who are distressed and stranded overseas back home. We have 3,639 who have requested assistance, and of that number, 1,332 are back in South Africa and in quarantine.
Sorry, I've lost a little bit of audio there, Minister. But if I may ask a follow-up question there, in terms of the repatriation itself, right? Is there a criteria for people to request to be repatriated, or as long as someone is a South African and they are abroad, they could well be, in a sense, are entitled to ask the South African government to bring them back home?
No. The criteria are that we are assisting South Africans who became stranded by virtue of the lockdown introduced by South Africa or lockdowns introduced by other countries, given the crisis of COVID-19. There were many South Africans outside the country on holiday or on short-term work training, or indeed some who have part-time employment outside South Africa. Those people became stranded where they're located. They're ordinarily resident in South Africa. But for persons who wish to come home on holiday or to visit their family, we are not carrying out any repatriation. It is stranded, destitute South Africa. JJ, did you hear me?
Okay, Minister, I didn't hear a little bit of what you said towards the end there, but can you just give me a sense of what has the international cooperation been like in terms of a coordinated global action to deal with the coronavirus? A lot of people are commenting that countries seems to have been too internally focused, so countries are just simply closing their borders and not bothering about how other countries are dealing with the matter. Can you comment on that a little bit? And also, while you are at it, tell me how the African Union itself is pursuing that kind of cooperation.
Well, JJ, we have been in constant contact with various countries that have missions in South Africa. Many of them have citizens who were on holiday and who equally got stranded in our country. So we've been able to collaborate on repatriating their citizens and then bringing back South Africans from their countries. And on the matter of international, certainly our president has been carrying out his role as chairperson of the African Union in consultation with the African Union Commission Chair, Mr. Mohammed, and a number of things have been done in order to provide support to the continent. We've created a COVID fund for Africa. South Africa has made a contribution to it, as have several other countries on the continent. We've also begun to contribute increased funding to the Africa Center for Disease Control, which is the body that is assisting countries on the continent in partnership with the World Health Organization to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, in terms of the relationships that you have in place with China, for example. I mean, China is your BRICS partner, and I saw that you issued a very disappointed statement, so to speak. You are very disappointed in the manner in which blacks are being treated in China, at least from the stories that we are hearing. What can you tell us in that regard? Is there something you have taken up directly with the Chinese government? What assurances have you received in that regard? I see that China, just as last week, donated a huge supply of medical equipment and other supplies, showing that there is still that friendship between the countries. But in terms of these incidents that are happening, have you received assurances that South Africans or Africans in general in China can rest easy knowing they'll be treated properly, Minister?
Well, yes, certainly, JJ. We have been in communication with the Foreign Ministry of the People's Republic of China to indicate our concern with respect to reports that we have received from some South African citizens in China who've indicated a very negative treatment, name calling when they walk in town, a very aggressive attitude on buses and in other forms of public transport. So we have sent through a note, as is the normal practice, through to my colleague in the Foreign Ministry. We've also reported what we have heard to the Embassy of China here in South Africa. We've been assured by the government of the People's Republic of China that they are taking actions to deal with this matter, particularly in the region of Guangzhou, where apparently the larger number of cases have occurred. And through the African Union, President Ramaphosa, as chair, has shared his sentiments with the President of China, and the chairperson of the AU Commission called in the ambassador of China in Addis Ababa in order to convey very strongly the concern of the African continent that this form of conduct that has been reported is not what we'd expect from a country that has been such a good cooperating partner for the African continent.
Absolutely. Finally, Minister, in terms of regional economic communities, and are you satisfied with the coordinated action? I mean, if you look at SADC, for example, is there anything there that could give us a sense that you are working closely with your SADC counterparts to try and combat the coronavirus? Briefly, Minister?
Well, just as you and I are speaking over Skype, JJ, we have had similar virtual meetings of foreign ministers of SADC, convened by the chair of SADC, who is that is Tanzania. So the chair of the Executive Council of Ministers has convened us, and we are sharing information, and where we can support each other with resources, we are making efforts to do so. So we are working very closely together as SADC countries. Our ministers of health are in a common task team where they share information to ensure that all the strategies we adopt are executed in coordination, because this pandemic is one that no country can solve on their own. It's very important that we collaborate. We're doing so in SADC, but we must collaborate throughout Africa and the entire globe.
All right. Thank you so much, Minister, for your time tonight. We just wanted to get that short update. We hope to still invite you for a longer conversation after the lockdown. But thank you so much for the work you are doing, and thank you for your time tonight. That's where we'll leave it for that conversation. Thank you, Minister. All right. That's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation there, Naledi Pandor, giving us an update of what they are doing in terms of repatriating South Africans, but also what's happening in terms of international cooperation. I think that everybody thinking that this is a time where the world must re-look at how they work together to tackle some of these challenges and